Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to be sharing a term 2 recap of our Ambleside Online year and how things are just going in our homeschool as we head into spring and summer. If you're new to my channel, I'm a homeschool mom of 5 children and I share quite a bit of our homeschool journey on this channel, along with some motherhood and day in the lives and anything that really is just bringing our family joy. I would like to share with all of you as well. So in this recap video, I'm just going to share some of the highlights and things that have gone well for us this term. This also just gives you a little peek into how we do a Charlotte Mason education with multiple children, what that looks like, how we do modify our Ambleside Online curriculum just to fit our routine and our family. There is just no cookie cutter design for homeschool. And man, I'm reminded of that again and again and again, that this homeschool journey is just a humbling experience and a growing experience as a mother. Boy, I need God's grace and I need my children to give us grace. We all need to give each other, extend each other grace, just like the Lord does for us. So it's a very sanctifying experience, and this term was no exception. So term 2 encompasses, started in December, but we did not do much of our formal book work then. It was mostly just doing a little bit of math, a little bit of grammar, music practice, and then Christmas stuff. So when January hit, we actually hit the books. You know how that goes? I love winter. I think it's a great time to buckle down and get the work done, the book work done. So that worked fine for us. In the middle of February, we took a trip to Florida, which if you saw that on my channel, I shared a little vlog of that. Really a great time. So that was kind of like our spring break in our term. And then in March, we hit the ground running again. So I shared about this in my term 1 review video. So to save time, I'm going to post that link in the description down below. But we've been doing a 4-day loop. So we take our week long of assignment work that we might have from Ambleside and we condense it into 4 days. And that has been really helpful for us this year because on most weeks, we only do about 3 days of school. I've been keeping track, and I would say on average we do 3 days because we have co-op. My girls both have a baking day with their mother, with their grandmother once a month, and then just odd and end things. We go get, we run to get raw milk once a month, so that takes a day out of our schedule. So there's a lot of random things, and so it's really important that we do this 4-day schedule. I know some people it's just so they can get a 5th day off. For my first grader, that's exactly what it is. So anyway, more about that in my term 1 review. I'll link that down below. All right, so let's kick things off and talk about family subjects. Great. Those are consistently the same thing. Nothing has changed. Obviously, we get a new, folk song and hymn every single month thanks to Ambleside Online. I do pay for the Patreon membership. I'll link that below. I can't think of her name, but she is here on YouTube for free. But I get her MP3s for $2 a month, so I can put them on our Yoto, which is really great, so we can listen to them very accessibly and easily all the time without having me use my laptop. We are exclusively really using Yoto for any audio things at this point, which has been great. I remember for years I would always have my laptop or my cell phone handy, and so this has been super, super wonderful. If you're not familiar with Charlotte Mason and family subjects, there are 2 videos I would direct you to. The Simply Charlotte Mason curriculum, I still use a lot of that. And then I have a couple family subject videos, which I'll link down below, I think would be really helpful. I share with you how I approach Ambleside with some more family subjects. So just as an example, Trial and Triumph, Parables of Nature, even our folklore and some of our fairy tales, a lot of that we do as a family, which makes it a little more feasible for them individually on their extensive reading. So family subjects went well. We usually get together morning time about 3 days a week. We are rotating through multiple different things. With family subjects, we're also following a 4-day loop, and so it's memory verse, Spanish, Latin, picture study, folk song, geography, and then the next day would be composer study, hymn, recitations, Plutarch, myths. Next day, habit, Trial and Triumph, Parable of Nature, poet study, Latin, and then the last day, our 4th day, we do a review loop, and so that's a review of everything. Review verses, review folk song, review hymn, review poetry. It's a really fun day. It doesn't take a lot of brain work, and we just get to do all of these old things, which is a lot of fun. So family subjects were a 5-star. They went really well this term. And so we do, you know, our co-op, which involves a lot of things that we would otherwise do as a family. So I'm really grateful for that, like folk dancing and drills and solfa and handicrafts, scouting. They do a lot of that in our co-op. Okay, so now I'm gonna go through our 3 kids and how things went for term 2. My oldest is in year 6, term 2. Then we have year 4, term 2, and a year 1, term 2. So if that's relevant to you, then I hope you find this video helpful. So I shared, again, the 4-day loop. If you want more information on that, it's in my term 1 review. So I'm not going to go into that. I'm just going to kind of give an overview of the books that we did for my year 6 student and how things are going. As far as like her daily work, we still use Simply Charlotte Mason for grammar, and we use Matthew C for math, all good things. We don't do like copy work anymore, and then I expect her to do 1 written narration per day, and that is just on her like checklist. Things went pretty good for my oldest. I don't like to use the word behind when it comes to Charlotte Mason because we're never behind. However, Story of the Romans and the Iliad, she did not quite finish those, and so we're just picking them back up. When I gave her exam questions, I made sure it was from portions of the book that she already read. And then into term 3, we're just going to finish Story of the Romans and the Iliad. And she's going to be reading, Story of the Greeks is what she's reading right now. And then she's supposed to go into Story of the Romans and the Odyssey. I'm doing the Odyssey for kids and boys and girls. And I figured whatever she doesn't finish, I'm just going to have her finish over the summer, but I won't require narration, just because I want her to finish the books anyway. I am finding them very helpful, so I believe that she is as well. Just getting that overview. We have done some Plutarch Lives, which have come into the Story of the Greeks, and I'm sure even more Plutarch's Lives will be in the Story of the Romans. And so I think it is a very helpful book to give you like an overview. And so I can see how some people say that the Story of the Greeks and Story of the Romans are really good precursors before you even do Plutarch. When we started Plutarch a few years ago, I was like, we have no idea what's going on. But now that we're getting accustomed to it years later, it's been fine. There's really no reason why I can't just go right into it. But I have seen that online. And so if you want to do some pre-reading, the Story of the Greeks and Story of the Romans would probably be really helpful for you. Otherwise, they're going to tackle that in year 6. So there's that. One thing, her Bible reading's fine. Augustus Caesar World, fine. She actually never really liked Foster's George Washington World and Abraham Lincoln's World. She really likes Augustus Caesar's World. So I don't know, maybe it just has to do with ancient times, Roman times. She's more interested in that, and so she's paying more careful attention to it. Couldn't just happen. So it's funny, this book was my mom's. I read this book when I was probably her age, and she's really enjoying this. So I think she's halfway, she'll finish it this term. What I love most about it is, this book isn't like, it is procreation, but it's just kind of sharing with the student these obvious things that show the world needed a creator. And this actually happened to her when we were reading the periodic table the other day. We were talking about matter and chemistry and atoms and just how exact they are. And I think you could talk about this in terms of mathematics too, how incredible the exactness of chemistry and mathematician, all of that stuff, how that actually points to a creator as well, because it's so perfect. And so that's the approach that this book takes. If you're wondering, like, is that something I should read? I think it's really helpful. She's really enjoyed this because she talks to, neighbors and people in the neighborhood and stuff. And so they are curious and want to know more about creation because they're not getting that approach from school in most public schools. And so it's been really helpful for her to kind of be able to apologetics, like understanding like why it's not only plausible that the God created the world, but actually makes the most sense, right? It's kind of taking it from that view. Speaking of her books, Periodic Table was a challenging book. We actually restarted it this term, and I'm reading it to her. Now I think she could take it over and finish it up, but I'm just continuing to read it to her. I don't have much to read with her anymore besides our family subjects and language with her. So it's been enjoyable to read this with her. And we actually started reading David Livingstone together for term 3. So I like to have books to read with her, and I think that's important. Otherwise, we don't really have as much time together. And I'm learning a lot because I don't know the history behind the periodic table and how it came to being. I know I took chemistry, but I don't recall any of this. And so about furthering our education, I'm sure all the homeschool moms out there feel like they're getting like a 3rd, 5th, 7th education with each kid. So anyway, we're reading this one together, and I think that's been really helpful. And then she did finish The Hobbit, loved it. Literature choices on Ambleside Online are amazing. She finished Anne of Green Gables, which I had swapped out last year. I think it was last year, yeah. So we circled back because she had like, I don't know, 10 chapters left. She finished that. She's obsessed with Anne of Green Gables now. So I went ahead and bought book 2. I'm sure she'll read it this summer. It's such a delightful story. But right now she's really in deep in Harry Potter. She's on book 5 or 6. So she's almost finished, and she's been spending all her free time digging through those massive fat books. But she loved The Hobbit and knew she was going to love The Hobbit. And she's halfway done with Animal Farm, and she'll finish that this term. And yeah, we'll see what she thinks of Animal Farm. I'm very curious to see. Okay, so Archimedes was her biography. That was fine. I'll talk about their term exams at the end of this video and share just some suggestion tips, things that I think are going really well with that, and then maybe areas that we are struggling. So we'll touch on exams at the end of the video, but try to keep this cohesive as possible. One more thing for my year 6. This book is really very interesting. We've gotten a few units under our belt. But she is in a youth group book that we are doing. I'll have to put a picture of this because I don't know where her youth group stuff is right now. But every week, her and I have been reading 2 chapters together, and it's the book Everyone is a Theologian. And we're learning a lot, but it takes us about an hour each week to do the homework for that. And I think that Genesis, finding our roots, I think of this as like an apologetic type spiritual formation type book as well. So I am dropping it for term 3 for now. I think it's a really interesting book. I think it's a great book. We're stretched a little too thin right now, and I don't want her, I want to make sure she still has time to read her Harry Potter, to do her handicrafts, to do her extracurricular activities. And so I feel like I'm double dipping with spiritual formation right now, and she has her whole life to learn these things. And so maybe we'll revisit this in high school. I don't know. But for now, we already have a book, and so I am dropping that for term 3. Let's talk about my year 4 students. So year 4, round 2, always helpful. My oldest is my oldest, and so we're learning everything together, how to even do all the things we're doing together. So my year 4 student, I know the books. I know what to expect. Everything, I know like how long the readings are. Everything is just a little bit easier with that second child, and then of course it gets easier and easier, right? Even though the child is different, you're more familiar with the program itself. So she finished everything in her term. Her favorite book is Ocean of Truth. No surprise there because my oldest this is also her favorite. And someone mentioned in one of my videos that this Joyce McPherson, she actually writes other biographies. And so they're on my list to buy just as some extra reading, or if I want to swap things out, because both girls now have loved this book. And so I feel like that's a really good sign when you have the second kid go through this, the year, and they both like the book, right? She also likes Men of the Mississippi. No surprise there. She has always loved all the animal natural history books, and that has been such a great way for my kids to learn their geography and also just about animals too, especially these last 2, Pagu and Men of the Mississippi. Of course, Holleen's other books are more just geography, right? But it's been really, really good. So she finished Robinson Crusoe, and then she now is just about done with Kidnapped. I'm really glad that she buckled through these 2 books. We were brand new to Ambleside with my oldest, and so we didn't do Robinson Crusoe and Kidnapped. And I will say my oldest, my second born, is listening to them on the Yodo app, LibriVox free, and we have them as cards. So she's listening to them, but she's really enjoying them. So those were 2 books that I let her listen to. Everything else has gone fine. The only things that she didn't do that we did together were Trial and Triumph, and then the Heroes of Asgard. Heroes of Asgard I'm doing with her and her sister. We do that at the end of Family Subjects once a week. And so we got through the whole first section these last 2 terms. We'll talk about that at the end. My year 1 student has been so much fun. And I have some testimony to share about that when I did his exams. So, you know, he's a 7-year-old boy. It's term 2. He turned 7 in this term. And he's very, you know, good about staying down and doing his things. It only takes him and I about 30 minutes to an hour. He probably spends 30 minutes on his daily work, like math and handwriting and copy work and all that. And then him and I, his readings and narrations probably take 30 to 45 minutes, depending on like which one we do. And because our lives are so fluid right now, because we also have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old, he has been very flexible and patient with his mom. Sometimes him and I do his school at, you know, 10 a.m. right after family subjects. Sometimes my 4-year-old or my 1-year-old needs me and I don't get to him until lunchtime. And I say, okay, son, buddy, it's time to sit down. We're going to do your school. And he's been very patient with me with that because it's not as consistent in a timetable sort of fashion that I would like for him as it was with his older sisters. And I'm grateful. I was worried that he may have fallen through the cracks, or it was too, you know, not smooth and consistent enough. And when he did his exams, he knew all the questions. And that really was the encouragement I needed, because I was really nervous that something fell through the cracks with him, just because it wasn't as like, oh, it's 10 o'clock, it's Michael's time. You know, he had this consistent time. That's just not the season we're at with this 1-year-old. And so grace to you if you're in that season. It is really tough. And so just remind your children that, you know, we have to extend grace and patience towards one another, just like Christ does. And so we're trying to not perfectly do that. We're not perfect, but that is the idea in our heads, right? He's been gracious to us. We need to be gracious to one another. We need to be patient and forgive one another and work through this. And being patient with your mom is one of those things, right? And so he's been good about that. And I really appreciate that about him. We have enjoyed all of his books. I don't think there's any that he's like, you know, I don't want to do that. I let him listen to Blue Fairy, Just So stories on his Yodo app. All the other ones we read out loud. The Burgess Bird books, I will show you in his notebook. We did start printing and coloring out his birds at like chapter 7. I did that with the girls when we did the Burgess Bird book like 5 years ago when we first started Charlotte Mason. We did the Simply Charlotte Mason bird study, and so they had a coloring book. And so I wasn't doing that with him, and I felt like there was a disconnect with like the image of the bird in the book, even though he was narrating it. So we started doing that, and I would highly recommend that if you're not doing that already, of just printing out the picture of the book and the bird and having him like write a little something, and I'll show you in our notebook what we're doing with that. Everything else has gone really well. He loves Paddle to the Sea. No surprise there. He actually really likes reading through Genesis. We're reading through Genesis together. And he's really like that. I go to talk about exams. I just want to highlight a few books here from our term. And so this is the Adventure Club series. This is through our church. This is year 2. They started it last year. And so this is our spiritual formation we've been doing as a family. We do memory verse, and they have like main themes and little activities that we do throughout the week. And so this actually, my 4-year-old is also in this. So it's 4 through 12, I think. So we're all doing this as a family, and that's been really, really great. So this is what we're using currently for like our spiritual formation as a family. And then these 2 books I just want to highlight in case you're on the line of spending the money on the Dallaire books. These are beautiful books. Oh my gosh, so worth the investment. They're, even if you're not doing Ambleside, these are great biographies of people, and we've purchased the other ones as well. So my son had to do the Benjamin Franklin and George Washington for term 2, and he's loved them. And so I highly recommend these. Buy them, get them in your home library. They're beautiful. This is the Asgard to Athens, which my understanding is this is the Ann White guide that goes from year 4 all the way to year 6. So my oldest did the Age of Fable, and she read through that, but she never got through the Asgard, right? And so we're doing this year together so that my oldest gets a little bit of that Norse mythology. And so that's been really funny and ridiculous. So anyways, we're doing this one as a family, which I may have mentioned in my term 1 video, but I don't recall. I may have mentioned these as well. So these are the Ambleside poetry books that I went ahead and purchased. I did get the year 2 book for my son for next year. I'll have a full curriculum haul really soon, but he's reading now. So I didn't buy book 1 because he wasn't a full reader, scale reader yet. But book 2 I got. And so these have just been really great for them to grab in our morning time, and they read a poem every single day. And then I have them pick out one that they like, and they do some recitation practice with that. So these have been great. I don't think you have to get them, but they're a nice, easy way to get started with poetry if you just don't have a lot of various poetry in your home. 2 things we changed that I want to make sure I mention. So we have done the elementary geography and home geography, Charlotte Mason, and I can't think of the other guy's name, but we've done both those books. We've circled through them now with, my oldest, my youngest, and even my 7-year-old has already kind of had them, because I know it's listed in like year 1, year 2, through year 4. So those 2 geography books, wonderful, delightful. We'll circle back again. I have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. We're going to circle back again with those younger kids with my 7-year-old. But for now, we're doing something else as a family for geography. We're going through visits to North America. In term 1, we did finished up Greenland. It was wonderful. Maybe that was even in term 2. I don't know if we did them both in the winter. Actually, I think we did. So we did Greenland, and now we're in Canada, and I'm having them do the map work. We're reading the books that they recommend from the library, and also like Hungry Planet, which I already had, and Material World, which I already owned as well. So this is from the Simply Charlotte Mason. I've talked about their curriculums before. They have wonderful family style curriculum. Anyway, we're loving this book, and so we're going to work through this whole book. And then I think we might circle back to the elementary geography and home geography for my little ones. And then we might pick up a different country after that. One other thing I purchased, which has been a 5-star review, is the Getting Started with Latin. With my year 4 student starting Latin, along with her sister continuing on with Latin, WeLox was a little bit hard to like integrate her. And so I was like, how can we like continue on with my oldest? We just decided to do this together, and it's been really easy to do the lessons. You can do 2 or 3 of them. They're also getting the visual aspect of it. I am glad that I had WeLox personally, and we got through those first few chapters just because of pronunciation and kind of understanding first, second, third person. So I think that was helpful for me, maybe my oldest too. But if you're intimidated by getting started with Latin, like in general, this book is so easy. And if you're not sure about the pronunciation, you do a quick little search and you can write in the pronunciation so that you're pronouncing it right and understanding how to do it. We're loving this book. I think this is going to be a huge success for us. You could even do this as a family. My year 7 has seen us write them on the chalkboard. My 7-year-old. So this could easily be done with like all ages, 6th and up, as a family. So highly recommend this as well. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about are their School Nest folders. These have been really great for us. I will be buying these again next year for their grade. Just a way for us to log things with like our geography. We have been filling them in as well. So just kind of like show you a little bit. So with my 7th grader here, she had some term 1 stuff. But like sometimes it'll just be things like as simple as like, oh, that's a really beautiful poem from your copy workbook or your, grammar book, or just one that she read. Why don't you just take some time? She doesn't do copy work anymore, my year 6, 7th grader, but she has cursive. So I'm like, why don't you just write that one in your book? So this is just an example of one she did in December in the bleak midwinter, and she practiced her cursive. So here's another example of like when we were doing Canada, and like she put her map and like she narrated a little bit of what I've talked about with Canada. So any of our family subject, oh, that one was, actually that was Asgard. You can see the Rainbow Bridge and all that. And then one thing I did do different this exam than I did previous exams is I actually wrote the questions in the exam. So here we go. Describe the children of Loki, describe Bilbo's journey back home. So I even glued and pasted like their oral narrations. As you can see, so for their oral narrations on their exam, I had them just talk it into the Word document, and then the older 2 girls, they just like edited it if it needed any weird things, because of Google Text, talk to text. So their oral narrations, they printed and put in there as well. So that's what we did for them. I'll show you my year. This is my fifth grader, my year 4 student. She did the same thing. She did a lot of like pictures with her narrations. And then, you know, she's been writing quite a few like poems in here, Canada. Same thing with her exam. I had her print her oral narrations. And then when they, at the end, they're supposed to like share like handicraft. In Ambleside's exam, they'll say like share handicrafts that you're doing, you know. And so I've been taking like pictures of like the handicrafts. So these are like some crochet projects that she did. And then I just printed them so that she could keep record of like the handicrafts that she's doing. You know, we take pictures of our stuff here, you know, for social media and whatever. So that's kind of like what she did. Same thing with my first grader. His exam was in here as well. So I think that's just going to help us like save it a little bit better. So this is basically like their yearbook besides the pictures that I'll print. So for him, I wanted to make mention of the bird book. And so I just found this online, these pictures that he could print in color. It's Canada. And then I just had him write like the name of it, the yellow wing, you know, northern flicker, and then he narrated a little bit of the chapter for the Burgess Bird Book of that bird, or half a chapter, and then I just wrote it down. So that was something that him and I started doing, and I think that that's been really helpful for him to kind of get a little bit better idea. Nice thing about these school nests, you can even do copy work in them as well, but this was part of his exam, so he did that there. So anyway, another update of like how I'm using those notebooks. We're not like this huge notebook family, but it is very helpful when you want to save specific things to have like one place to just put it all in. Love how the exams, we did their term 1 exams in there as well, but I didn't put the questions. I just gave them the sheet of paper and then they wrote in their answers. But then I had to like staple the paper in there. So it took me a couple hours, but I like wrote everything out. And then we printed and copied their oral narrations, which I've never done before. And I'm really glad we did that, especially with my 7-year-old, because so many of their oral narrations, they're gone, you know, like they didn't have a record of this cute little narration that they give. And so that was just something that I was like, oh man, okay, well, bygones are bygones, but now going forward, let's definitely try to track those oral narrations on their exams, because that's really, really fun. Overall, I think it was a really good term. Of course, it comes with its challenges. I have 5 kids. We're just working through many different things here in our life. And so sometimes I have to remind myself that my 5th grader, my 7th grader have already read more books probably than I had by that age. Ambleside is extremely extensive and incredible. So don't feel bad if you have to eliminate some things because of time management or your activities outside of the home. They're reading a lot of incredible things. Absolutely, if you can find ways to, you know, bring it together, if you have multiple children, I think that's super valuable. That's why we try to do as much as we can here and there together. I do like them in their own history cycles. I've been asked that before. I think it gives them a little autonomy by themselves, and of course they can talk about the different things that they're learning, which I think is great. But we're doing a lot together already, and so this has worked really well for us. And also, I would say trying to keep the older one having something to do with them so that you have a little bit of time where you're just sitting down, even if it's for 20 minutes on one subject together. Again, we're doing that spiritual formation youth group homework together, so that's been really great to learn as well. So overall, yes, success. We're starting term 3 first week of April, and so we're going to be done just about the end of June. And so that was the same as last year, maybe a week or 2 earlier, which is fine. And then we'll take some time off, and we probably will be, you know, utilizing that 3 to 4 days a week because I got to get the garden in and all of those extra things. So anyways, that is our term. Hopefully you found this video helpful. I would love to hear how your school year is going. We got through the winter blues. That's the hardest season. The sun is out now. We're getting fresh air. And so things just start to, you know, pick up a little bit. So hopefully you are just being able to be rested and just embracing whatever season that you are in. And so I'm wishing you great success as you finish off or head into your next term, depending on where you're at in your school year. So thank you so much for being here.